Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Throwaway Mimiga. 1 week before our wedding, I, 34 female, discovered my fiance, 30 male, plans to meet up with an old fling. I, 34 female, have been with my partner, 30 male, for 4 years, and we are getting married this weekend. We have good communication skills, and trust and fidelity have never been an issue in our relationship, nor has jealousy. We don't really discuss past partners very much, but we are aware of important prior relationships and generally can discuss these comfortably. When my partner was young, 22, he met an older married woman while in a foreign country together and they had a fling. I know this relationship was important to his personal story. Upon returning from the foreign country, they met up once at her place when her husband wasn't home, fooled around, and as far as I understand, that's the last time they saw each other. He told me that one time she seemed to suggest that she would have left her husband to be with him, and that was the point he knew he was in over his head and at risk of ruining her life as he did not reciprocate that level of feeling. Their relationship would have been about 8 years ago now. I'm not a heavy snooper, but we do share a lot of devices and sometimes I'm not proud of it, but I do snoop, lightly, just out of curiosity, sometimes. I have seen that over the years she sends him the occasional LinkedIn message, he's not on Facebook, to say hello, update him on her life, etc. These are only a couple of times a year. They are not lavish or strange messages, and notably, he only responded once with something nice about remembering their trip together, and that was before he met me. Since then, he has not responded to her handful of brief check-ins, we're in the same town, etc. However, I had to go into his email a couple of weeks ago for something pertaining to the wedding organization, and I saw she had messaged him again that she would be in our town in a few weeks and that she wanted to take him out on an evening or a time a few weeks from now. I didn't think much of it. Certainly she doesn't know he's getting married, it's not like they have been messaging, and as my partner is honestly a little bit thoughtless about replying to messages, I expected he'd just ignore her. But it still weighed on my mind as the country they traveled to or the trip he took came up in conversation with friends just a few nights ago, and I thought he might take the opportunity to say, funnily enough, I just heard from her, or something like that. As weeks passed with no mention of her invitation, I logged into his LinkedIn just to ensure he had not replied or anything to her, and in fact he had, saying very simply that he would love to meet and she should name the place. Now, I trust him. I don't believe he has ever given the faintest indication that he carries a torch for this woman whom he hasn't spoken to in years. His more serious relationship with another woman was right before me, and I don't exactly believe he plans to step out and cheat on me. We've not really had any problems lately. He has seemed happy as normal, etc. I know I've already been crazy by snooping and that I'd be being crazier still to get upset so prematurely. The most likely scenario is that there's no inherent reason why he can't have dinner with a person from his past. Maybe close an emotional loop, tell her about how well his life turned out since then and about his marriage. I am assuming actually that he probably does plan to disclose and discuss it with me. Example, how would you feel if I had dinner with X? And that he is, correctly, waiting until after the wedding to ask me about, the proposed meeting is after the wedding, as it would be weird to ask just a few days before our wedding. But I can't help but have feelings come up. I'm annoyed that she contacted him. I definitely have a richer sexual history with men than my partner has with women, and I never really try to get back across a dinner table with people from close to a decade ago. Like, girl, really? Why does she keep contacting him? And what would be the objective of this dinner? And I can't imagine asking him, is it okay if the older man who swept me off my feet when I was young comes to our town and takes me out? I know I haven't really hung out or spoken with him since the last time we almost boned in his wife's bed while she was gone, but I just want to know how he's doing these days. I don't want to be an insane spying girlfriend who doesn't let my partner hang out with other women or friends, etc. just because they have a history. But up till now, we don't have the kind of relationship where we hang out with our ex-lovers. I am trying to manage my feelings on my own, as I should not have snooped and I should have let him discuss this with me. I imagine the reason he has concealed it is that he's worried I'll leap to conclusions or be neurotic, as you can see that I'm being. Lol, nope, just gonna be neurotic in private on Reddit. My plan right now is to just wait till he brings it up and then share what I've said to you here. I trust him and I'm not against it, but what might she be expecting? How would he feel if I had similar meetings with men from my past? Are there going to be future meetings with this person? She doesn't live in our country, or is this a one-time thing, etc.? So I guess my question is, how would you manage this? Should I just fess up that I snooped so we can discuss it right now rather than have it overhanging the wedding? Is it fair if I would like to hear what's the point of him meeting up with this woman who, despite being married and now with a baby, still has not forgotten him after 8 years? Is it fair to feel a little hurt that in the week before our wedding, he was able to send her a "yes, sure, let's meet" message without wanting to run it by me first? He couldn't include "I'm getting married this weekend" in the reply, or at least set her expectations. As I said, he's a bit thoughtless about text and messages and things like that, so I'm trying not to prematurely be mad at him or read things in, but I don't know what to think. Well, P, it's not an easy situation, but I guess it all comes down to the type of person that you are. What I mean by this is, are you the type of person that can effectively lock this in a box and forget about it until after the wedding so that you can actually enjoy your wedding? Or is this something that's going to be bothering you until it is addressed and you won't enjoy your wedding? If it's the latter, then I think you need to address this right away. And if you expect him to be absolutely honest and open about all of the questions that you have, then you need to be honest and open about what you did to get some information, like all that snooping that you did. That would take care of the first 2 questions that you have. All of the others, you need to ask your future husband. Now, the only thing that I would be weary regarding this whole situation is your future husband's moral compass, because he's super okay with having a relationship, an affair with a married woman, but he doesn't want to destroy somebody's marriage the moment she wants to leave her husband for him. So I guess his moral boundary is, don't be a homewrecker, but an affair partner is okay. Anyways, what do you guys think about this whole situation? How would you handle it, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Teresa JS says, for me, it would be a huge red flag that he neither mentioned the email to you nor told her that he was getting married. I recommend that you mention having seen her email when you were checking the wedding stuff and see what he says. If he fibs and says he has no intention to meet her, there's a big problem. If he says he's going to meet up with her, tell him you'd love to meet her too. If he seems evasive or lies, it might be best to postpone the wedding. And OP responds, I think it would be awkward for me to meet her and I'm not really interested in her, though I would love to meet his other big ex someday. And I honestly don't think this is something serious enough to postpone the wedding over, but it's helpful to know you hear that as a flag. Like I said, he can just kind of be obtuse about messaging sometimes, and I'm assuming he A, wanted to discuss this after the wedding, and B, wanted to tell her about his marriage in person. But I do feel a little breach of trust, which is helpful to know I'm not being super crazy about. Pragmatic Bastard says, I think you need to be honest with yourself because you are doing a lot of so-called light snooping for someone who says they trust their partner. You don't trust him, or you wouldn't be checking up on his personal accounts. Reflect on what that means for your relationship, because I don't see any real progress being made unless you stop telling yourself you trust him. What the Taco says, I'm the type of person who likes to leave certain things in the past. An old lover would definitely be one of them. It sounds to me like he's going to meet up for one last hurrah. Could be completely innocent, but why does he need to catch up with someone he's had sex with the week of your wedding? Plus the fact he hasn't actually mentioned she's been in touch. He doesn't want you to know. And OP responds, it's 2 weeks after the wedding that the plan is set for, which I suppose lends credence to my maybe he just knows now's not a good time to discuss theory. He hadn't taken any pains to hide it either. He might not be aware of the extent of my access to his stuff, but his LinkedIn password is the same as many of our other passwords, etc. I also don't really see the good in meeting up with old lovers either. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. So many people stay such good friends. Alright, well, the community definitely gave OP some things to think about, and OP gave us a little bit more context with those replies. So now it's time to move on to an extensive update that OP has given us, but before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now, let's move on with the update. Thanks for all your wonderful advice. I decided to fess up to the snooping and ask him about what I found. I said something like, "Hey, I know this is going to sound crazy for a couple of reasons, and I'm sorry, but were you planning to meet up with your ex-lover after the wedding?" We ended up having a long and very honest conversation, during which he said that because he knew the meeting would be harmless and the complicated situation would have made me needlessly upset, he replied without discussing it with me. Further conversation, though, revealed he really had not thought this through very well. He did not really have an answer for "when were you planning to tell me?" and when I asked, "would you have pretended to be doing something else, gone to dinner with her and lied to me about it?" he confessed that he did not know. He was not defensive, did not try any of the "I was just waiting to discuss it" BS, did not need prompting to disclose that he had planned to meet her, and didn't try to lie or diminish anything. The thing I really need to stress here is that at no point, including now, do I believe his motive for meeting her was that he still had feelings or wanted to rekindle an affair. Had he gone to dinner with her, I do not believe anything physical would have happened. The problems are A, going behind my back and possibly planning to lie, and B, that this woman remains in a weird and complicated kind of emotional denial, and he had some kind of people-pleasing instinct that for some reason made it easier and more important to him to acquiesce to her than to do the hard work of talking with me. According to his explanation, the woman maintained a great deal of guilt after her affair, and the only way she could deal with what she had done was if they stayed friends, because then it would have been a friendship instead of an affair. Right. Yet, I brought up the fact that since the affair, the one friends meeting they did have resulted in them fooling around, and the friendship she longed for had not ever in fact materialized. It seemed he believed that meeting up with her as a married man would finally create a sense of closure on the affair for her. But when I pressed him on this, why is closure for her more valuable to you than being honest with me? Are you going to start our marriage by lying to me to avoid my feelings so that you can take care of another woman? Why did you not let her know with your reply about your upcoming wedding to frame things for her? Supposing you have a nice friendly dinner, what is next? Further contact, future meetings, or not? How do you know she believes in this friendship versus a manipulative denial that allows her to keep contact with you? He did not argue or defend, but seemed to immediately realize the wish for a meeting made no sense and that he had done the wrong thing. Like, what kind of logic is that? The way for me to heal from my affair is to keep meeting with the partner from 8 years ago as friends, so we can pretend it never happened? He says he fully thought they would have had a proper above-board catch-up which would have made her feel better about things. But he also agreed that it came apart as soon as one looked at it, and that just taking the path of least resistance had been easier for him than trying to unpack this. I told him that had it not been for the imminent wedding, I would have let the meeting come and go and he would have returned home to me and my packed bags. I reminded him I had always been very reasonable about friendships with women, exes, etc. and that if he'd come to me confessing that he'd hoped to close the loop on an element of his past, I would have been supportive, so long as the boundaries were reasonable and that he communicated with me about what had been discussed. I reminded him that he would never be in this position with me as I don't continue to meet up with men I've slept with, and that he had better think through what led him to go behind my back in this way. As for the snooping, I apologized and admitted it was wrong for me to dig, but he was not bothered about it at all. He said he thought I had a right to pursue the issue when I saw the message and that he might have done the same. In the end, he said he was glad I took initiative on this now, because this confrontation forced him to unpack something that was messy but relatively unimportant to him once I asked him to examine it. I was satisfied with the way the conversation went, in that he acknowledged all my emotions were fair and that he had done something wrong that could have potentially had serious consequences. Again, I think this would be a slightly different post if I believed for 1 second he still had feelings, physical or otherwise, towards her. but I think it's more he's kind of emotionally young, dislikes upsetting others, and chose the route that would have caused him the least discomfort. He says he has realized from our talk it would be stupid, pointless, and misleading to meet up with her. I've encouraged him to think it over, plan out the communication strategy with both her and me better, and that I still would not stop him going so long as whatever he thought he could resolve was carried out in a sensible, truthful, and above manner without avoiding communicating anything to her or me. He probably will decide not to go, but I'm not having the "I went crazy jealous and told him who he could and couldn't talk to" narratives around this, or "Opie stopped me from resolving things," or whatever. It would probably set a better path for the future if he did go and we proved as a couple we can navigate situations like these in a communicative and adult manner, and that no artificial cutoffs of people who have been important in our lives have to happen without dialogue. Now, this doesn't mean I'm happy with things. In a way, it was a bit worse than I thought. I figured that he was going to talk it over with me, but wanted to wait until better timing after the wedding. But in fact, he confessed he hadn't necessarily thought through how to handle me in the situation. I told him I found this disappointing and a violation of trust, and he agreed that it was. I told him I might need a little space to get over the fact of him thoughtlessly planning to meet an old fling during the week of my wedding, and he said he would understand. I'm sad and disappointed that if I hadn't snooped, and if Reddit hadn't encouraged me not to wait, he would have even considered lying to me, going behind my back and putting the apparent needs of a relatively unimportant, obviously messed up in the head ex before respect for me. He knows this is a big F-up. But still, given the fact we have not had any other remotely grey area incidents with trust, jealousy, or exes in our past, and how honest and fair he was when confronted, I'm still not having second thoughts about the wedding. I think he has learned from this, is genuinely sorry, and that such a thing will not happen again. How serious do you think this is, given I, A, trust that explicit cheating was not his motive, the meeting would have been harmless in his view, and that he really was just kind of being a thoughtless people pleaser, B, he completely heard, understood, and acknowledged all my concerns, made apologies and promised to do better in a way that satisfied me for now, and C, we have never had anything like this come up before. Well, OP, again, to answer your questions, I think it comes down to the type of person that you are. If you absolutely believe your boyfriend is telling you the whole truth and he's being honest and transparent about everything, and it was just like a brain fart or something, then it shouldn't be serious and your relationship should just move forward naturally. But if you don't trust him and are gonna keep snooping because you don't trust him, then it's just gonna corrode everything. But for the sake of positivity, let's just chalk this up to it being a hiccup, and nothing like this will ever happen again. Here's wishing you both the best in the future, OP. Thank you for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a quick mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Ice Arena. Cheeseburger with no cheese. Yeah, I know, that's a hamburger, but try telling that to every single Mrs. After Church Karen 100 times and let me know how much you want to press the point. A cheeseburger was 25 cents more than a hamburger at fast food restaurant where I worked back in the day. Eventually, I got tired of being yelled at for correcting or explaining that what people really wanted was a hamburger. This happened multiple times a month, mind you. I wasn't getting bait enough to stupid-proof hangry people's fast food orders, so I started ringing them up exactly the way they ordered. At first, I'd ring them up for a hamburger cause I knew that's what they meant, but I got chewed out by someone who read their receipt, so no more going out of my way to save people from their self-inflicted stupid tax. The first time I rang up cheeseburger, no cheese, the cook came up to tell me I rang it up wrong. I just said, "That's how she ordered it." My dead on the inside tone said all that I could not express in mere words, and the kitchen employees caught on right away. They never questioned the orders rung up that way again. It was a win-win. I didn't get yelled at for trying to save people money, and the restaurant made an extra $1.50 every month from customers ordering cheeseburgers with no cheese. I don't mean to brag, but sometimes the restaurant made a whole extra $2 a month thanks to me. It was a little thing and petty, but it made my retail-weary heart a little glad. And a tad, I feel I should mention this was 15 years ago, approximately. It still comes up when I reminisce with my fellow former food service workers while swapping war stories though. Update. I've been getting comments about burgers all day, and I couldn't get burgers off my mind, so I got a cheeseburger for supper. Best decision I made today. Aw man, now I want a cheeseburger. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.